Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sourlet64, and welcome to the RoboCast. We're back after our little summer holiday. I suppose it was a summer holiday of sorts. It was 2 weeks for Shark Week on the Discovery Channel. I'm joined alongside, as ever.
Steve the American Killjoy. And before we go any further, I would like to just have a little bit of a remembrance for the poor drone that we forgot about last 2 weeks ago
Yes,
now.
yes.
Poor Spitfire.
It got
Wow.
shredded.
It was awful, and I
Uh,
can't believe we missed it. Mike missed it. Well, Mike said he did it on purpose, but I mean,
I know there was a lot of comments saying, "How did you forget the drone?" We
yeah,
don't.
really
We don't know. We don't know
bad.
how I forgot it. It was great.
Now you know how we really are.
Yeah, yeah. And we also forgot to mention this 2 weeks ago. This week is not a five card format as such. It's a Flash tournament. It's the Desperado Flash Tournament. Um,
Yes.
Eight quote unquote down on their luck bots, even though Lockjaw's 1 and 2, which isn't too terrible. I personally think it should have gone to robots that had 0 wins. I think that would have been quite interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. That seemed a little bit. That seemed a little bit off. There were some bots that actually were not too down on their luck. Because,
Hmm.
example, Gigabyte, they had one loss, but it was to a very good opponent.
Hmm.
But I guess maybe they look forward to maybe like the matches they're going to get in the future and thinking like maybe this is our only shot to get in, possibly. But
I suppose it was an easier route for them, in theory.
possibly.
In theory.
But I did like how they explained it in the fact that this tournament doesn't actually do anything for their ranking if they lost.
Yeah, if
Like,
they lose, it's
they
a
just
huge
get thrown
risk.
back. Yeah, they just get thrown back into the tournament like they never did it.
It was a huge risk going into it. Like if you won, then it's a great reward. If you don't, then you're in trouble because that's potentially an extra 3 fights that you've now had.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
and
three
who knows
fights
how
was.
many extra parts they had.
Well, obviously we'll get to.
Uh,
Should we get to the fights?
let's get to the fights.
Let's get to the fights. So the first one saw. Was it Lucky and Gemini the first fight? I think it was.
Yes,
It was
it
Lucky
was.
and Gemini. Lucky, who have been famously unlucky in BattleBots. They've had 3 fights at this point in over 2 seasons, and they're yet to win. Um, so kind of surprising,
Despite
really.
being so successful off the air.
Yeah, yeah. And Gemini, currently 1-0. What are they doing here?
I don't really know. This is another head scratch where it's like they're not down. I don't know. Maybe they just maybe they're in a situation where they're like, man, there are a lot of good robots here. Maybe
Yeah,
this is our only way to get to the
I
bracket.
do agree that there should be. I agree that fair enough. They've probably thought, right, this is probably going to be a really good opportunity for us. We might as well go for it. But I honestly think it should have gone to a case of where, okay, teams with no wins only can enter. I think that would have been much more interesting. So teams like, say your Chomps of this world. Who else has had no wins this season instead of Lock? Yeah, exactly. So it would it would make more sense to have that for me. I don't know about you guys. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the Desperado lineup. First of all, I think it was kind of it was a little bit interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a way to put it.
As for the fight between Lucky and Gemini, really good fight. Really, really good
Real,
fight.
yeah, really good scrap between the two of them. It was nice to see Lucky actually really get their flipper into something for once, because it seems like in the past they've fought robots that they really can't utilize that flipper as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It seems very interesting the fact that the way that they controlled the fight as well. They kept hiding in the corner, waiting for both of them to come to them.
Well, it's also easier to flip a robot that's half your weight.
This is very true. I mean, we did get some good airtime out of the two twins of Gemini. And then they started attacking each other.
Yeah, but sometimes that's not a bad thing where you just take one robot and it's not even like Lucky pushed one into the other. They just decided to just, I don't know, rumble their own rumble. I have no idea. I don't know what was up with that.
It was an interesting fight, at least. I think the two different styles were very, did really complement each other for a good fight. I think the one thing that strike me as quite interesting is they didn't go for the big plow on Lucky. They went for the two sort of wedgelets.
Right.
Whereas in the other two fights we'll see later on in the show, they went for the big spinner killer plow, which I thought it was interesting they went for that route. I mean, it worked clearly, but it was just
Yeah.
kind of surprised me really.
Yeah, I can see why you think that, where you have two big kinetic spinning discs. I think it's all based around like how much energy each one of those can put out. They say, maybe the little wedges will work, and I know that being able to get up underneath, because I know that their big spinner killer plow kind of neuters their weapon a little bit. They lose that scooping front to get under things easier and kind of stay away from the blades of death that most robots have. So it's all strategy. I understand. So I don't know. Be nice to hear from them specifically, but maybe we'll hear about it in the future. You never know.
Yeah, maybe. But it was good performance for Lucky, and as as we said already, they've been desperately unlucky in BattleBots up to this point, and now it's we finally get to see what it can do.
Yep. Hence they're in Desperado.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. Not much more to add to that fight, really. It was a great spectacle. There's lots of sparks being thrown off.
All the weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, one of those things, I suppose. Moving on to our next fight, Lockjaw and Kraken.
Yes.
Once again, Lockjaw at 1 and 2 rather than having completely lost. But I suppose with Lockjaw, they fought 3 of their 4 fights.
Yes.
So I suppose their thinking was, if you get someone else difficult, so we go 1 and 3, then we've had it. So we might as well go for the opportunity.
Yeah, and another thing I was also thinking about, especially with Lockjaw, is the fact that say they go farther in this tournament, and do end up 2 and 2. It'd be nice to have a couple more quote unquote wins on their record, so that they've actually proven themselves, so that when the committee comes around to pick, say that they don't get in on this tournament, wink wink, they have a it kind of bolsters their
credentials, so to speak.
Exactly. So they automatically are getting more fights by being in this tournament, thus taking a risk. I understand that, but I can understand why they jumped in, not only because of record, but also to kind of differentiate themselves from other robots that they're going to end up 2 and 2 or 3 and 1. They're going to have they're going to have more fights they're going to have more fights to look at for Lockjaw.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they lose.
Well, obviously, the fight itself was a lot closer than I think I certainly expected. It was, Kraken did really well.
I was very surprised with how well Kraken did. I think that was the only way it could have won the fight, was by stopping that. You got to stop that spinner.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. I was really hoping there was one point in this fight where Kraken had a chance to bite in to the rear of Lockjaw, and Lockjaw just squeaks away. And I would have loved to have seen
what might have been.
Back, man.
What might have been had it gone the other way. I think, all things considered, Kraken can hold their heads quite high, considering, let's face it, it isn't the most serious of entries. It looks like a giant anglerfish, for God's sake. It's great. It
definitely looks over functionality.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, I think it's had 2 Science Channel Rumbles where it's kind of fallen by the wayside in the 2 of them. So the fact that they put on a really good show against, someone who's won 6 giant nuts in the past.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy how well they did, and they can be very proud of that, considering it's, for all intents and purposes, like an aesthetically pleasing boss rather than a form of functionality, but like Lockjaw is.
Yeah, they almost took him the full 3 minutes, so I think there was 14 seconds left or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they really pushed him to the limit, and like we said, it's not a bot that's known for being particularly destructive, but apparently it's very annoying to fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Lockjaw made the most of it, made the most of the fight, but it certainly wasn't easy for Donald Hudson. I think he needs probably have to clear up his strategy in the next few rounds, which we'll get to in just a moment. Obviously, at the point of this recording, the Science Channel hasn't actually aired the episode of BattleBots.
Killing me.
So we miss out on 2 fights from this episode. The fights were Valkyrie and Hypothermia, which went the way of Valkyrie. I think it seemed fairly cut and shut, really. The fact that Valkyrie damaged the front of Hypothermia, but then its weapon died. And then, as for Gigabyte and Double Dutch, that was just
that was something.
It was a piping from Gigabytes, really. Let's face it. That's how I would describe it. It was.
Gigabyte didn't get out of that unscathed, though.
No, it didn't. It took a few hits, but it was brutal.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say. So through to the next round go Gigabyte, Lucky, Lockjaw, and Valkyrie. Those are probably the 4 you would have picked, realistically. Yes. They're probably the 4 that you would have thought, yeah, these are the guys that are going to go through. So we get the big 4 through to the semi-finals. And
the seeding's correct if that's the way it ended up. You should have one.
You don't see it very often. You normally see You normally see one shock at least at the opening round, but
Yeah,
not this time.
upsets.
So was it Lockjaw and High Valkyrie first? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll do it anyway. If it's
Yeah.
not, then comments.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Lockjaw and Valkyrie. Interesting that Lockjaw took an arm off and put like a sort of ram plate at the back.
Yeah, he went full defense on this one. He was very, very scared of the blade that Valkyrie had.
Well, but we spoke to Craig Danby a few weeks ago when he talked about Predator's fight with Valkyrie. It did do a bit of damage to obviously Bale Spear, and obviously did a little bit of damage to Predator as well in the process. So it's certainly not a foregone conclusion that fight. It was Valkyrie's a decent machine, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But again, Donald's driving was spot on.
Oh, big time. I mean, he just kept putting that defensive plate, losing points in the process, but in the fact that I'm curious as to why Valkyrie's blade was designed the way that it was. I don't want to be that guy, but it's when it broke at a point where the cross section is the smallest, where it looked like there was weight saved.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm just curious at that. I'd like to know. If they're listening, they're probably not listening.
It's a shame that it broke in half. It is a shame that it broke in half. Because,
I really was sad. It looked very Tombstone-y. She, the builder, and her name escapes me, but she said it's very, very a la Tombstone. So I know why they designed it the way that they did, but I mean, it's another instance of breaking Valkyrie's face with its fist, or fist with its face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That whole deal.
I wonder what would have happened had they used the disc.
Yeah, me too. I thought that when I saw this fight and when I saw the blade break.
I think the disc could have probably done a little bit better.
Maybe, yeah. But I kind of have a hard time thinking that wedge would have ripped off. They would have had to outdrive Donald and get to his side, and that was already hard with with what I mean. It's hard to get around the side of that robot anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. It would have been a massive upset, I think, if Valkyrie had won. But
big time.
But Lockjaw, the driving of Donald, once again spot on, and he makes his way to the Desperado final, where he would have either met Lucky or Gigabyte. Now, for my 2 cents, Gigabyte must be seething at
big time.
At the obviously they had a problem earlier in the season where the top of their dome came off and it was naked. My girlfriend compared it to Mr. Krabs losing his shell, if we remember back that far. And basically what happened was the whole connecting pipe on top was kind of sheared in half because of the amount of force and energy going through it. I think there was an issue with the designing of the actual rod in the middle.
It was an issue with the company that made the rod.
Yeah.
This Chinese company that cast this part when it should have been made out of a solid piece of 6061.
Correct. It was a composite material rather than an actual just solid piece of metal, essentially. And it happened again. It split in half again.
Yeah,
and it lost its stream.
They had to weld it back together. I think that did that damage occur in the Double Dutch fight?
Possibly no, because the arm was a different arm in that fight because you had the curved arm on top of that fight.
No, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll talk about it more. I think next week when we actually see the fights, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. But yeah, they try to weld this bar back together, and anybody who's worked with welders or anything like that, I think you can kind of understand that the weld is going to be the weakest point, no matter how good you make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's like putting glue, metal glue.
Essentially, yeah. But it was a case of, I think they were hampered from the start. I think that probably the reason why they went into the tournament in the first place was realizing, we're going to take a lot of damage either way, so we might as well just try something.
Sure, absolutely, and they had nothing else.
You'd have to say Gigabyte were desperately unlucky in the fight itself. I mean, they're doing some really nice hits off the front of Lucky. Lucky did well to tip them over, took the hits well, and what a great disco disco show that Gigabyte gave out.
all it was missing was a little bit of ABBA, and that's about it.
A
So,
bit of ABBA.
why not?
Oh,
About
dear.
as close as we can get, or Earth, Wind, and Fire. Or
Yeah, something like that. I mean,
get...
Gigabyte was unlucky. On another day, in a season where they were fully fighting fit, I think this probably would have gone the other way. But no disrespect to Lucky, they did the job they needed to do, and they won the fight.
Yeah, and I think what Gigabyte going back to the main tournament, having this experience now, it was almost like a free couple of fights for them to kind of test a couple things out. I think, and it's them going back into the main tournament. I think there's still going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think that's clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
This bad luck cloud that's following them around, it needs to stop.
Yeah, please. I want to see Gigabyte do well. I want to see Gigabyte fully up there. They deserve to be. They've got a machine that can clearly win the whole thing. It's just
it can have the good hits.
It's just unlucky. It's just unlucky, really.
It's just unlucky, and Lucky goes through.
Indeed, Lucky was lucky, and makes the final to fight Lockjaw. Now, this fight.
Yeah.
Lucky were driving really well, and as soon as they lost a wheel, that was it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. They just couldn't.
Yeah, it was pretty game over at that point.
Mm-hmm. My thing was though, I'm surprised that they counted it as a knockout because Lucky was still able to move out of their circumference. So I don't know what do you reckon of that? It was. I mean, Lockjaw. Let's face it, deserved the win. It was the better machine on the night.
That's no question. Yeah.
It was the better machine. They outdrove Lucky. Job done.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just surprised they counted it as a knockout.
Yeah. I guess I'm on the same. I'm on the same boat that they got counted as a knockout. I mean, I fight in the insect classes, and as long as you're like crab walking and getting out of your circumference, you're still mobile.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's up to the referee's discretion, of course. But I think even if it was a knockout, it's semantics at that point. I mean, it's I don't know. It's just I don't know the word.
I get what you mean, though. I get what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's small potatoes. There we go.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I suppose.
That's the phrase, I mean, Lockjaw was going to deliver this fight on a silver platter, if Lucky wasn't moving, and that's really what happened. It was cool to see Lucky's flipper work, the one with the
4-bar.
Oh god, man, it's very hard. Okay, for people who don't know, I'm actually driving down to a thing right now, and it's very hard to talk.
I'm being distracted by the Tom Brewster currently. There's your shout out.
There you go. Hey.
I shouted you out now. You can stop asking me.
But yeah, it was pretty easy to see that this was going to be a Lockjaw win.
Yeah, for my 2 cents, I think I really don't think Lucky, unless it got Lockjaw out, I don't think it would have. Unless it flipped it literally out of the arena, I don't think it could have won this fight. I really don't.
Yeah, they would have had to put it into one of the flip out zones that aren't flip out zones, and pulled the Bronco, and it just wasn't going to happen. But they did really, really well to get that far, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's finally nice to see Lucky pick up a win.
Yes.
And I think they now have an opportunity to get back into this competition, maybe even string a couple of wins together and get into the final. Who knows? The potential is now there. We said a couple of weeks ago when it last fought and it lost. Does it have the staying power? Does it have the what's going wrong with it? And I think now it's got the chance to do it. I think that now you can actually see the potential there.
One thing that's interesting is that I believe they said in the episode that they were down to their last flipper. So that's a little scary. So this tournament did definitely take a little bit out of Lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, maybe they got time in between. They got the Tormach machines there. Maybe they can cut something up and get another one made. I don't know. But I mean, this is really good for Lucky going into later in the tournament, especially for the whole fact that we were just talking about Lockjaw bolstering up a couple of wins and building up its reputation, so that when it comes down to the end, if you have a really close record and there's a lot of bots that they got to pick from, they'll remember you. Hey, one, they went into the Desperado tournament, took that risk, and did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as for Lockjaw, in the last 16. And what can you say? I mean, Donald is the guy.
I'm not arguing. It's a very good machine, a very good driver, great team. He's been around for a very long time, probably over 20 years at this point. He's been doing this.
Yep, absolutely.
But
The experience is there. Could Lockjaw
yeah.
sneak the ultimate sneaky win? Like,
Yeah. Can he get the nut to screw onto that bolt he just got?
yeah. It's for me.
Maybe.
I think there's just too many tough machines out there. We've seen what the Verts did to him already. Obviously Bronco as well. Lockjaw is a good machine. It is a really good machine. Do I think it's going to win? I can't see it. I think best he can really get to is maybe he'll win the next round. It depends who he has. But
I think he'll be a thorn in people's sides, but
yeah,
it's going to be tough. It's going to be a very tough hill to climb for him because there's a lot of good robots coming up into that tournament. We've seen a whole bunch of them.
My one worry is, like, obviously, I don't know whether it's going to be ranked 6. Like, the winner of this tournament's going to be ranked 16. I imagine it probably will be. So does that mean pretty much guaranteed to fight Tombstone, or?
I mean, we'll see. That's a good question. So I mean,
we'll have to wait and see.
If it fights, I don't know, man. I don't want it to fight Tombstone. It's going to get killed.
Yeah, I don't want to see Lockjaw spread across the box. That wouldn't be nice.
No.
No. I think that pretty much sums it up. In terms of breaking up the season, I think it was actually quite nice, to have something a little bit different. Obviously we've had the fight card format for 10 episodes, and this is just like something off the wall. It was quite quite fresh to see something different.
Yeah, I replied to the post on BattleBots' Twitter, and I mean, it's cool to see something different. I mean, I know they're trying to do a whole lot more different things to kind of pull in more people, pull in viewers, and kind of keep it more interesting, keep it fresh for how long the season is. You know what I mean? So it's good to have new ideas, and I like seeing new ideas. Where, like, I mean, maybe you'll see imitation in the future, of things that BattleBots is doing. They're trying things out to see what works, and it's really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
It's cool to see them trying things. That's just the best.
I think really, with the last 2 seasons, they played it quite safe, didn't they? With the
very much so. Yeah, they made it to a very. It was very sport-like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's not sport-like now. This is more like a league. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
more.
It's like a season.
Yes.
The soccer season or football season in the UK is about to start. Or has just started. It's like the start of a season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that said, thank you very much for listening / watching / however you're viewing this. I don't really know. It's up to you guys. Thank you very much for watching. As I say, bit of a different episode. I thought it was quite interesting. The robots in it were varied. It was quite nice to see someone new getting the spotlight. Say Lucky or Valkyrie. They were quite nice to see getting the spotlight. And obviously, massive congratulations to Don Hodgson and Lockjaw to get into the top 16, which he might not have done otherwise. He might have done, but I think he's smart enough to know he'll play it safe and get it into the final 16.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been Sam64.
I've been Steve the American Killjoy.
And we will see you next week for whatever comes next on BattleBots 2018. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.